let me bring on board Mayuresh Joshi as well and find out what he's making of the market right now. Mayuresh, hi, afternoon. Good to have you on the show as always. I don't know if you caught my colleague Prakash highlighting what he's picking up from his sources that the finance ministry is not in really favor of regulatory intervention in the markets and is talking about strong growth visibility for the Indian economy for at least the next 3 years to come and a buoyant equity market thereof. In lieu of that, would you say tactically one should be extremely bullish on PSUs and maybe not bother about valuations at this juncture?
Afternoon, Aisha. I think two aspects here. One, I think if you look at how India is placed, both from a macro and a micro perspective, obviously, I think most of the parameters that you're probably looking at in terms of the fiscal deficit and the current account deficit as a number to start with is looking very, very buoyant at this juncture. And the expectations in terms of the glide path that the exchequer has put forth in the next 2 years, getting fiscal deficit close to that 5.1% mark, is going to be an extremely attractive figure as far as foreign investors are concerned. The second aspect, obviously, in terms of very stable tax collections, we probably see the number come out. Direct taxes have increased almost 19% year on year. The assumption that the exchequer has also taken for the next financial year, a little bit on the lower side, both in terms of nominal GDP and the tax collections. But I think even if we are able to continue this growth going forward, and the expectations in terms of the huge capex spend that the government has embarked upon, expected to continue over the next 5 years, the expectations of private capex coming in, the expectations in terms of gross fixed capital formation going northwards, these are all positive signs in terms of how the micros will then play out. Corporate earnings have held up pretty well. Corporate leverage is probably at the lowest level that we've probably seen in a decade. The banking NPAs are at the lowest level that we've probably seen in a decade as well. And therefore, I think the robustness in terms of micros also will play out. I think the growth story for India continues, Aisha. To answer your question on the PSU pack, structurally, I think over the next 5 to 6 years, whether you take PSU defense as a theme, whether you take PSU power as a theme, PSU banks as a theme, I think the first two parts, the power and the defense names, obviously have moved a tad bit too much, again, from a valuation perspective compared to its longer term standard deviations, as well as expectations in terms of what can probably go wrong. I think the only thing that can probably go wrong is execution, because the order books that both these sectors carry are pretty robust. The book to bill is extremely strong and having strong visibility over the next 5 to 6 years. But execution miss, if any, might just pull down the valuations because the price movement has been too sharp. So within this pocket, our take at MarketSmith is that PSU banks still offer a reasonable amount of risk reward. A lot of cleanup has probably happened. As the rate cuts will start happening through, even in the Indian context in the second half, the NIM expansion will be very, very obvious. And the expectations in terms of reasonable advances growth, deposit growth continues for this space, along with strong provisioning and capital adequacy for a few of these banks. So I think Bank of Maharashtra, Bank of Baroda, State Bank, any pullbacks, I think PSU banks within the PSU theme offers a little bit of a better risk reward scenario.
Thanks. Within the PSU theme, let's keep it with that PSU theme then and listen into what Sandeep Tandon, Gautam Duggad as well as Nilesha from Envision Capital had to say on the PSU basket.
We have been talking about value as a thesis, and obviously PSU qualify as a value thesis right from September 2021. So it'll not be, we were relatively, as compared to somebody is looking at the top, we are very early in identifying that inflection point, and I've been very bullish for last more than 2 years now in this space. But we remain very constructive. If you look at the larger picture, we are looking for the PSUs, okay? Neither we get too complacent about the move which we happened very recently, nor we get too tense about what happened in last 2 or 3 trading sessions.
That valuations are expensive for mid and small caps, but it's not correct to say that the entire mid and small cap basket is frothy. Allow me to explain that. Mid cap index right now is trading at around 30% premium to Nifty. Nifty is trading at close to 19.5 times 1 year forward now. And mid-cap index is trading at somewhere about 27 times, which obviously is very expensive. Small caps are also trading at expensive valuation at an index level. Usually the average of small cap, if you look at the comparison versus Nifty on a 10-year basis, the long period discount is about 24%. Against that 24% discount, today it is trading at a 10% premium to large cap. So clearly, when you compare at an index level, and we use NSE Mid Cap 100 and NSE Small Cap 100 when we do comparison of these baskets. So on that basis, definitely things are expensive.
But I clearly believe that PSUs are in for some kind of a more long-term re-rating. They have kind of re-rated meaningfully. It's quite possible that over the course of next maybe couple of months or so, if there's further correction, I clearly believe that even in the large cap space, the PSUs do offer a great opportunity. And post the elections, if a fresh bout of reforms come in specifically directed at driving more efficiency,
Well, we are back with the latest edition of Times Now Summit. Over the years, Times Now Summit has been championing pertinent national agenda points where India's leadership, leading thinkers and national influencers come together to define the action plan for India's progress. Themed India Unstoppable this year, we're going to be focusing on charting India's remarkable journey and its increasing influence on the global stage. So join us on 27th and 28th of March in New Delhi and watch the who's who of the political corridors share with us their views.
Let's dive into which are these volume stock, action stocks today in trade. Ansh is here with the selection of 3 stocks. Ansh, what's on your radar today?
So Indus Star is on our radar first. So the stock has given a breakout from cup and handle chart pattern, advancing for 5th consecutive month, and it has gained over 50% in last 5 months itself. Apart from this, Trident will also be in focus as the stock has given a breakout from its downward sloping resistance trend line, advancing for 2nd consecutive session, also with volume of over 3 times as compared to its last 20 session average. Lastly, Allcargo Logistics will be in focus. As you can see in the chart as well, the stock has given a good decisive breakout from its downward sloping channel with substantial volume of over 10 times its average trading volume of last 10 sessions, and the stock has registered its biggest single session gain in over a month. So these are the breakout stocks based on price volume action.
Thank you so much for that, Ansh. But, let's keep it going then. And Vaishali, I want to talk to you about Indus Towers on the charts. How is that looking like? We've been seeing that it's buzzing in trade for the last couple of trading sessions as well, at least this week. On the charts, how is Indus Towers looking?
Well, it has shown a lot of strength and it is continuing to show higher top, higher bottom formation. Today also, it is crossing the previous high of 260 levels. So I think the stock looks pretty strong even now, and one can hold with the trailing stop loss. I think in all likelihood, the stock can go towards 280 to 90 levels.
Okay, that's Indus Towers in trade for you. Couple of other buzzers today. Of course, Indus Tower and Idea are both holding out well. But autos, and it's specific, the two-wheelers as well, are pretty charged up. Vaishali, Hero MotoCorp, Bajaj Auto and TVS. Where is it that you would want to go fresh long?
I would say Hero Moto because it has shown a lot of strength today. And in fact, we have recommended also in our as an intraday trade. But I would continue to stay bullish on this because today's volume, today's candle shows a lot of strength. I think this is poised for a target of maybe 4,900 to 5,000 levels from here on.
I want to talk about the real estate sector, right? And, where do you see the realty space moving? We've seen a very good run-up here. Today also, we are seeing a run-up coming in. We have brokerage notes on Brigade Enterprises, Prestige Estate, the land that they've acquired in the NCR region. Because of that, we've seen both these stocks buzzing in trade. Where do you think there's still value left in the real estate sector and, it's time to still look at it?
So, Vinny, was that for me?
Yes, Mayuresh, for you.
Sure. Afternoon, Vinny. So I think the real estate pack has moved up quite significantly. And again, I think we're in the midst of that 6-7 year cycle that we are speaking about as it typically navigates through this cycle. You're going to get your patches of some kind of downturn that these stocks will face. But two things that I clearly watch out specifically for the entire pack. One, I think in terms of the inventory built up that I've been reading through across tier 1, tier 2 towns. I think that has started to build up because of oversupply that is probably happening specifically in terms of a lot of redevelopment that are happening in urban and semi-urban areas. So I think this is one aspect from a risk perspective that I'll probably watch out. And the second element is in terms of any input cost inflation that probably comes through. But I think to offset this again, I think when we talk about interest rate cuts happening, because it is extremely sensitive in terms of how the rate cycle will probably move. And a lot of borrowers are probably even looking at this rate cycle very, very intently. Any move on the rate cuts by the RBI in the second half of this calendar year will definitely bring in more amount of strength to the sector as a whole. So I think within the space, again, very frankly, anybody holding on to a DLF, a Godrej property should continue holding on. But ancillaries, Vinny, is something that one should focus upon. So to that extent, our take is plywood players, laminate players, Greenlam laminates as an example, Century plyboards as an example. I think a lot of input cost inflation had hit their margins really hard in the last 3 to 4 quarters. I think they're just coming out of that entire inflationary scenario. And as the deflationary aspect gets played out on the margins, along with expectations of very stable volume growth that comes through and strong operating leverage getting played out, these ancillary stocks should start showing some element of strength. Again, the housing finance companies, as an example, PNB Housing. Very frankly, I think if you probably look at the entire construct, whether it's PNB or LIC Housing, again, if you bind that with the rate cut scenario, I think a whole host of expectations in terms of further movement when it comes to the individual disbursements. Asset quality pressures have come down for both these players quite drastically. And I think that entire perspective can also get played out through the housing finance route. So my take is that anybody holding on to the core real estate players can hold on. But the ancillary players is something where any pullback can be seen as buying opportunities.
Since we're talking about the entire realty pack, let me take it across to Snehi as well. Prestige has announced its foray into NCR. Let's try and understand what exactly is the consideration and what it would mean for Prestige, which is now expanding its portfolio into a newer geography.
Well, yes, so Prestige Estates is a stock that is in focus today and is doing pretty well because the company has announced the acquisition of 62.5 acres land parcel in Indirapuram extension in NCR, and this marks its expansion majorly into NCR, where it already has hotel projects under construction as we speak. Now this project is not only residential in nature but also is a blend of educational, retail and recreational spaces as well. Now Prestige has committed 468 crore rupees plus a revenue share for the acquisition of this land parcel, which will likely have a saleable area of 10 million square feet and a gross development value surpassing 10,000 crore rupees. This is what the management says. Now the management is also looking to launch the project within the next 2 quarters, and the project will be completed in the next 4 years. Now why is this a big development for Prestige and why is this panning out on the stock in such a positive way? Prestige had in its earnings call, remember, they had announced its intent to enter into the NCR market, and the upfront commitment seems small. The project completion timelines also look aggressive. However, if Prestige is able to deliver on this land parcel that they have achieved, and if they are able to perform like they have done in Mumbai in terms of their sales and recent foray into the Mumbai market as well, they will become a very key pan-India player after this expansion. So well, that is why Prestige Estates is in focus today on the back of this land acquisition and the further expansion that they've done in the NCR region.
Thank you so much for that, Snehi. Let's just take a quick look at the market right now. What we're seeing buzzing in trade is L&T, ICICI Bank, Maruti continues to hold on, as well as we saw some recovery coming in even in ITC. So pull up the charts for ITC as well. That's a bit of a run-up coming in as well. Yes, keeping an eye on that. And Sun Pharma today. So the Pharma pack has been buzzing as well. So Sun Pharma, Cipla, all those names are doing and holding on to good gains as of now. But what's buzzing in the dealing room? Sharad is joining in with us to give us more details.
In focus is Lakshmi Organics, and this is a cash stock, and over here what we are hearing from dealers is that HNI buying is coming in across several counters. Even the volumes, that number has also picked up almost 30 times its 20-day average, and we did a channel check for the stock itself, and what we are getting from the dealers is that there's a rising demand coming from the textile and the dye pigment segment, and importantly it's a raw material for the textile segment that has actually picked up. And if you look at the month-on-month basis, as per our channel checks, there has been a 25% increase when it comes to the demand. Also, the second part what we are hearing from our channel checks is that the demand is increasing for ketene and diketene for this company. And importantly, these two products are nothing but the finished goods of the company. So of course, the raw material consumption is increasing for one category, while also finished good consumption is also picking up, and that is why there is a fundamental buzz happening around the company. And also, HNI counters have been busy in the day.
Oh yeah, 8.5% of a bump up coming in on that stock. In fact, I want to just check in on some of these other buzzers as well and show you where exactly the big moves are. While of course, the large caps are doing whatever they're doing, but you are also seeing some serious amount of short covering in a Laurus Labs. Look at that stock; it's spiked up about 3.25%. Piramal Enterprises has had it going very good today. Both Syngene and Biocon are holding up very smartly. There's Laurus Labs as well, which is up 3.25%. So some of these stocks are looking pretty good in trade right now. Of course, like we've been pointing out, Idea, Hero MotoCorp, Maruti, all looking smart. REC has been seeing a second consecutive day of some good traction today. So another 3% higher for REC as well. HAL is looking very smart. Hindustan Aeronautics, that is. That stock is holding up 3%. PFC in tandem with REC, that stock higher by about 3% as we speak right now. United Spirits is holding out very well as well. But as a trend, Mayuresh, some of these pharma names, and just very specific names at that, are beginning to now look up. Anything that you would like from this space?
So Aisha, we continue holding on to Sun and Dr. Reddy's in our global portfolio. So that's a very clear disclaimer. What we also would like to put on our buy watch list on any pullback would be Natco Pharma within the broader markets. Now, our take for Natco Pharma is that the branded generics market and the FTFs that Natco Pharma has, the paraphors, around 14, 15 in the pipeline across the therapeutic chain, whether it's oncology or diabetes, where the expectations in terms of pricing and margins both are expected to remain strong as approvals come through in the next few quarters. Obviously, the kind of margins that Natco works around, there was a dip in margins in the previous quarter at 38.5%. But the large part of the market participant belief is that the margin should stay around that 39 to 40% range. Now, with more launches expected to come through in the next few quarters, better margin launches with strict timelines, my take is that numbers should show significant amount of earnings propensity on the higher side, and therefore top line growth, margin expansion will lead to a EPS growth, which is quite significant over the next 2 to 3 years, both in terms of the EPS and RS rating, and as per the cancel parameters that we see at markets. With any pullback onto this stock can be viewed as a buying opportunity.
Vishali, some specific names, PFC, REC, and then of course a big move coming in on HAL as well today. Any tradable opportunity here?
So I think REC was a good opportunity yesterday. After we saw a good fall coming in, well, above 430, it was showing a lot of strength. So it has already given a good bounce, but I think if it sustains above 465, it would be furthermore strength. So I would say that it would be better if we buy a bit in decline closer to 445. So we can look for a target of 500 and plus. And HAL, of course, if the trend is very bullish, we continue to have a positive view. Well, the stop loss lies at 2950, and we will be looking at a target of 3400.
Okay, we're not bad at all. We've almost seen a 190-point recovery from that opening low today, and from there it's really been a very gradual move up. Although we're closing off the day's highs, but that's okay. That's only, just a little bit of a closing adjustment going into the weekend, and of course the truncated week next one as well. But Kunal, only 3 trading sessions next week, financial year close, expiry, etc. What do you think is going to be the pattern for the Nifty?
I think it should still be on the bullish side. So I think most of the corrections behind in the mid caps, small caps, we've seen the large caps initially shielding the market from or the indices from a major correction, and then on the way up when the mid caps and small caps are recovering, the large caps are notably underperforming, which I believe could be a decent phenomena, which could probably indicate that maybe the large cap stocks could remain into a balanced kind of a territory. We may not see any strong trends as such emerging into the large cap stock, except for few names like L&T, ITC, etc., where I would believe that there should be some stronger trends building up. But I believe largely as a pattern, the major part of the volatility is behind us now, because the India VIX falling below that 200 DMA 13 levels, all of that patterns, those triggers are very positive for the markets. And considering the point where generally pre an event, a major event like election, we actually expect the India VIX to rise up. So if there is a gradual as well as a sharp fall which comes by pre the event, that indicates that the markets are not expecting any heightened volatility.
Okay, that's the call coming in on trade next week, but let's get in some BTST ideas as well. Vaishali, what's on your list?
So one of them is BEL, because I think that stock has shown a lot of strength since quite some time. So I have recommended this stock with a stop loss of 194. My target would be 202. That is one of the stocks. The other one that I'm looking at is also Canara Bank, because in the mid-cap category, Canara Bank has been showing a lot of strength. So I would say, well, with a stop loss of 568, this can go to 588. So these are two of my BTST trades.
Okay. Kunal, what about your strategies?
So I'll go with the Ban Engineers India. After yesterday's 10% up move, the stock is a lot more somber today. So expecting this to be a very strong up move over the next couple of days. So buy with a target of 205, stop loss at 188. And Jindal Steel is something which I've been bullish on. The stock is almost now at 830, 840 levels. So looks attractive even from current levels. Would continue to hold on the bullish view. Targets remain at 880 and stop loss I'm revising it from 770 to now 800.
Right, okay.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.